It's Monday, December 1st. Holy cow, the year goes by fast, but welcome to Scouting the League. I hope your Thanksgiving was one full of pie, turkey, and football. Hopefully some rest at some point as family time and all that goes on usually ends up taking over. But it is always a great week full of food, full of football, and full of family. I certainly am thankful for football, thankful for the partner I have on this podcast in Neil Stratton. Of course, thankful for every listener out there like you that makes this worth doing. I appreciate you. And of course, have to ask you now, go like, subscribe, and share this podcast wherever you are listening and watching, whether that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or over on Megaphone. Make sure you hit those buttons. Most importantly, share this one with a friend. Let us know what you think everywhere you can comment. Of course, I am Rodrik David at Right Step ADV on X is where you can find me. 6 years in the draft room for the Atlanta Falcons, spent time in pro, in college, now consultant to those in the football world, whether it's universities, NFL teams, agents, everyone in between, no matter where you are at. If you want to learn football, know football, let me know. My website, rsafootball.com. Helping you in the football world in every way I can, and helping those that are scouts as well with the scoutingcommunity.com. NFL scouts out there, the unofficial union for you to help you everywhere in your job over at the scoutingcommunity.com. 100% anonymous. Make sure you check your inbox or reach out if you have more questions on that. And for aspiring scouts, make sure you get signed up as well. Learn the game of football from a scout. Get connected with those who are going to help you get that front office job somewhere in your future. Do the things now in the spring and in the summer to make sure you are set up for that. Make sure you go check out our partner over at bluemaca.com. Use code SCOUTING20 for those insoles, non-slip, or recovery, as well as that carbon fiber plate for turf toe. Use code SCOUTING20 to get your discount on that order. Go check out our podcast with Chief Innovation Officer Stuart Jenkins. Did that one back this summer. Those insoles that every agent should be making a part of their package for their newly signed recruits. Every gym, every training ground should have them for their athletes as well. You slide that non-slip insole in, your performance will get better. Not just hearsay, it is statistically proven. Again, go check everything out over at bluemaca.com. Make sure you head back and listen to last week's live episode that Neil and I did on who should be the GM job candidates for these jobs. Again, whether it is somebody from one of these past best draft winners from inside the league. We've seen a number of those come and go. We've also seen the staying power of some of those GMs, where the teams that win best draft typically do it the right way. They're going to get good people, good jobs. So go check that one out when Neil and I sat down last Wednesday. Also, we check out tomorrow, where I am going to talk about the looming situation in Indianapolis with their certain quarterback, what may be dictating it. But today, we talk expectations and why they matter, not just for NFL draft picks, but for free agents and for coaches and front offices as well. Expectations absolutely matter, and it can be the narrative or the thing in the media, the thing that is talked about, that really dictates the way you feel and think about a season. When expectations are too high, it is nearly impossible to succeed. You try and set them, you try and communicate them, but draft status, dollar value absolutely do create them. When they're too low, you really never quite get an appreciation for how good a player is, what they do contribute. So expectations matter. It is why it has to be a holistic approach in today's NFL and in today's college, that again, everybody's got to be on the same page organizationally, and whatever your team, whatever your local media, you do the things that you try to do to set expectations, communicate expectations, to try and keep people in the right shape and right state of mind. Again, you think about a guy like Shamar Stewart in Cincinnati, huge expectations, being a first round rusher, but were the expectations from the media and from the fans, the same as what the team had. Again, that is up for debate. Again, obviously the sack production was not there in college, but the traits were among, again, what would normally be a top 5 pick. Again, you think about what Trayvon Walker was when he came out of Georgia going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, you got to talk about high traits, production not yet there. And again, we cannot write the book on Shamar Stewart. Again, the Bengals have done a very good job internally. And again, putting the narrative, the media out there that, hey, this is a long-term draft pick. We have at least 4 years, maybe 5 more than that, hopefully, to get Shamar Stewart where we want. The development this year, have they seen it? Again, that's for them to decide internally. Has he met their expectations? Again, that is for them and them to decide. But again, you think about what was said about Trayvon Walker versus, again, Aiden Hutchinson in year 1, year 2. Again, it seemed like, oh man, that was a crazy draft pick. Again, maybe it still was. Aiden Hutchinson really good. But again, Trayvon Walker has continued to get better and is a very good player on a good team now down in Jacksonville. So again, expectations that the Bengals are putting out there have to help set what is expected for Shamar. And again, you don't, as a front office or coaching staff, want to come out and say, hey, yeah, don't even worry about Shamar this year. Again, he was a first-round draft pick. You invested a lot in that player and in that pick, and you need first-rounders to be starters and impactful players. But again, you can shape it, and you can do things to help make sure the expectations are where they need to be. I think about a couple of quarterbacks out on the West Coast, Geno Smith in Las Vegas. His expectations, I would argue, were way out of proportion. Again, going from having a good year in Seattle to, hey, he is going to be a good starter in Las Vegas, help this team win. Hey, he's going to a team that is needing to reload, needing to add some new pieces. And Geno Smith in his career has shown he's basically a backup quarterback. So again, you sign him, you trade him, you give him the money you did. Expectations quickly got out of shape there. And again, he is not playing great football, but again, it's probably the discrepancy between what should be expected and the way he's playing now is probably quite a bit smaller than if those expectations were, hey, this guy is going to be a spot starter. Hopefully we don't see him more than a year, maybe year and a half. We've got to find a future answer. Geno Smith is a backup. Again, in San Francisco, a lot of it goes back to Brock Purdy overachieving as a Mr. Irrelevant last draft pick. Again, he comes in there as even a middle round draft pick, expectations higher. But again, he didn't. He came in thinking he'd be a backup with good intangibles, good trades, can go out and win some spot starts for us. No, he came in, he overachieved big time early in his career, gets a contract. Since then, it has been up to Kyle and that offense to make sure he just achieves. If they can get Brock Purdy to just achieve at the level they expect, play consistent, not turn over the ball football, win in the huddle, win between his ears, win with his brain, manage a game. Really good defense Robert Saleh has. Play with expectations. Again, you saw early this year, you saw it last year with Brock Purdy. Don't do too much, don't expect too much. And again, you're going to be really happy with Brock Purdy as a starter. Again, I think that's the way this quarterback trend, 2026 draft class is trending is, hey, there's going to be a lot of managing expectations if you choose to draft any of these guys where they ultimately go. On the other end, when expectations are too low, guys are never appreciated really until they're gone. Again, 2 guys kind of pop up to mind for this one. Again, it was a guy that I drafted, was part of drafting in Atlanta, and Austin Hooper was a good player. Again, kind of drafted with 3rd, 4th round, middle of the draft. Again, you draft a player, expect him to come in, kind of be a number 2 tight end, maybe eventual starter. He was consistently good in Atlanta. Again, never quite appreciated, I would argue, when Atlanta goes, signs a couple different spots. Good, solid tight end there. Again, maybe you could say at some point, maybe kind of underachieved on a contract, but again, good, consistent NFL starter. Again, a player that in Atlanta, again, kind of forgotten about, but was a good, consistent player. Again, We're going to go back out to the Raiders, Derek Carr. I think they would all be happy to have Derek Carr back again at this point in his career. Again, a guy that was really underappreciated. Again, never quite appreciated what he did for that franchise. Again, getting that team, again, some big disappointments, but again, they'd be happy to have him. Expectations for Derek Carr absolutely were never quite on kilter. And that's where coaches, players, teams that have expectations meet expectations. Don't overachieve, don't underachieve, just meet expectations. You'll be happy. I think about head coaches, hiring coaches. If you hire coaches that consistently exceed expectations, you're probably going to be better off. Again, I think about teams that the expectations get skewed. Again, I think about Bill Belichick in North Carolina for all the missteps, for all the things that he has done wrong. What exactly did people expect from this North Carolina, this team? Again, an 8-5 to 6-7 team in 2024. Is he slightly underachieved? Yeah, probably, maybe slightly. But again, the feeling on Belichick being such a failure in North Carolina is because as the greatest head coach in NFL history, expectations were through the roof, were sky high. Again, yes, he has done a bunch of really dumb stuff, a bunch of really ugly, silly. Again, why would you do that stuff? But again, what did this North Carolina team really expect this year? What did you expect them to be a 10-win season? Be an 8-win season? That might have even been a little high. This is probably about a 500 football team that has shown some improvement. They just don't have the pieces in place. Again, you can look at them, look at where they were at. Again, there's some ugly football on there. But again, what did you really expect from this team? Again, reset those expectations with a new situation for Bill Belichick. And again, you probably understand, hey, yeah, didn't help himself out. But again, this is about the team that Bill took over. Again, you think about massive underachievers. Brian Kelly, massively underachieved this year. That is the reason why he's out on the street. And again, kind of a career. Hey, Brian Kelly's, this has kind of been the situation. He had some good teams, loaded teams at Notre Dame, never quite got it done. Again, you can talk about kind of a perennial underachiever that, again, won a lot of games, but never quite got it done. Bill Napier, consistent underachieving at Florida. Mark Stoops at Kentucky, he was kind of all over the place. You weren't expecting much, and all of a sudden they're in the SEC championship game. You turn around, expect a little more, and they really underachieve. Again, you just talk about that consistency for Mark Stoops. Again, you talk about a bad 2-year run for Jonathan Smith at Michigan State. Not that a ton was expected, but when you underachieve even then, again, that's a tough spot. You think about a guy like Pat Fitzgerald who's going to get a shot. Again, consistently overachieved at Northwestern with those rosters. Again, you think about Lane Kiffin. Is that an overachiever? Yeah, he's probably shown that at Ole Miss, not a team that was expected, not a perennially good school in Ole Miss. That, again, he's going to go to a spot where, again, he better meet expectations because they are going to be really high at LSU. And again, maybe for me in the Midwest, the perennial overachiever, Matt Campbell at Iowa State, always had good, solid teams and yet was always a top or right near the top of that Big 12 conference. Again, you talk about Matt Campbell as an overachieving head coach almost year in, year out. Those are the guys that you want to hire for your good team, because when overachievers get good teams and they overachieve with those teams, that's when you start talking about national champion teams. If you draft and sign players and you keep those players in perspective and meet the expectations you have as a team, that's when you're really good. Again, 2 guys from this year's draft, Will Campbell in New England, Tyler Warren in Indianapolis, both guys who had a lot of expectations and they've met those expectations. Will Campbell hasn't been perfect at left tackle for the Patriots, but he's done exactly what they wanted to him week in, week out. He lines up. He does a good job. He wins most of his battles. He's going to lose some. Again, that's the kind of the athletic limitations he has. But again, he's going to win a lot of snaps, and he's going to be the anchor there on the left side. We'll see in a few years if Will Campbell turns into a Jake Matthews at left tackle. Consistently good, top end, top 10, right around that 5 to 7 left offensive tackle for 10, 15 years in New England. Tyler Warren, obviously, he is doing what everybody thought he would do as the number 1 tight end, the offensive weapon in Indianapolis with a good team there. Again, you talk about Ryan Day consistently meeting expectations. I don't know if Ryan Day has the ability to exceed expectations because they are sky high. But again, Ryan Day has his job because he has consistently met expectations in Columbus and will continue to do that. And that is the thin line that he has to manage there. Meet expectations, which is college football playoff, Big Ten championship, national champions. It's what Nick Saban really set the standard for at Alabama over the course of, almost 20 years. Expected to win a national championship, and almost every year he was right there on the doorstep, to where even if you underachieved, you're a 10-11 win team that has an argument, if nothing else, for being in that championship game. Taking good players, getting the most out of those players, getting every player at Alabama, a bunch of 4- and 5-star top level players, to meet their expectations, which is why, again, they own the draft, and they have been really the hallmark of consistency in college football for a long time. So who is or is not meeting expectations, whether those are teams, players, coaches, front offices? Where are those expectations at? Who is setting those expectations? Beyond that, are they meeting the expectations you have? Again, as any scout does, start asking the questions. Hey, who set these expectations? Are these mine? Are these this franchise? Let's listen to the head coach. Listen to the front office. Let's look at the overall situation. Are they meeting those expectations? Start asking questions. Good scouts do it. You'll get answers that may enlighten you and help educate you on, hey, maybe this is why the team hasn't moved on or did move on from these players, coaches, and everybody else in between. Let me know over at Right Step ADV who is, who isn't, and what expectations are you looking for. Let me know. Tomorrow we talk about that decision in Indianapolis. How does this Minnesota situation dictate what Indianapolis can do? Again, hard thing to do is operate in a bubble. Think about only what Daniel Jones and this roster is when you see what is happening in Seattle and Minnesota. With Daniel Jones, you got a big decision coming. We'll talk about that here on Scouting League tomorrow, because we're not just meeting expectations. We try to exceed expectations every week on this podcast, and within all of it, we are scouting.